to for you to review the content on your own. If for some reason you're not able to attend the class, then you'll be able to go back to some of the class, some of our discussions to help you with the semester assignments or any things that you need to have more help or details about. So we have about 30 people. So why don't we go? Why don't we jump into our information architecture class? So welcome to this class, and it's UXD5502. My understanding is that most of you are at the certificate level at Humber in UX, design, user experience, creative design. So I'm sure you all come from multi places and I would assume some of you are at school full-time, some of you are working part-time, and most likely you all come from very different background, and at some point in your career you've decided to learn more about information architecture and user design, standard design, and how do we design better solutions for consumer and customers. So that is really what we're going to be talking about when it comes to information architecture. So my name is Yves Renou, and it's Yves. There's a silent S. You can call me Mr. Yves. You can call me Yves. You can call me Professor. It's really up to you. We are a large class, so I believe we have about 60 people that are registered in the semester. So that is a few of us that will be attending these sessions. Today is week 1, and we are going to be meeting every Wednesday at the same time for almost 2 hours for what we call the synchronous lecture, where everybody attends and there's live session, and then I will share with you when are we going to meet or what will be available for you for the rest of the time during the week. This semester, this class is 6 hours of courses or classes, synchronous and asynchronous per week, and it's a 7 weeks semester, so it's a very short semester. So you're pretty much doing a equivalent of 13 weeks and 6 or 7 weeks combined. So it is a lot of work. It will be a lot of work, but we're going to get through this together. And my goal is to make sure that you guys are successful in learning. So I will share with you a bit more of details. There was a question on the chat. Will there be a link to this class? So Blackboard, I don't know if any of you have all used Blackboard before. Some of you, this may be your first class. Some of you may be your second or third classes with Humber. But we use Blackboard, and Blackboard is the platform. Well, obviously, you came to Blackboard to be here on the Collaborate. But on Blackboard, you will see everything about the course, and I will walk you through. But in the event that we don't have a chance to look at Blackboard today, I really encourage you to go and look at the material. So I did spend a lot of time on making sure that you will have the course schedule, you'll have my contact info, you will have the course outline, you will find the critical path, you will find the assignments and the due dates and the percentages as well, and then you will find your grades when the assignments are being marked. So very, very important, but we're going to get in more details for today's. So we are together today for until 12:25. So that gives us almost 2 hours. It will go really, really fast. And I'm really, really happy to be here. And you will learn more about me. And I will want to hear more about you, because we're such a large class. It's going to be hard to hear from all of the students. But I have created a discussion forum where you guys can introduce. And then I put some hints as to what about you to the rest of your class, and then I would really, really invite you to all do that as well. And I create a cafe. It's called the Cafe Chat. This is where we can mingle. Like, we're not in class, we're not physically together, and I thought maybe if we have a place where we can chat, We can exchange, we can network, because it's all about networking. We like to be with people, and I know how difficult being online it can be. But let me tell you, I've been teaching, and I've only been teaching online for the last since July. There are ways to make this fun. There are ways to make it work. You guys have even flexibility, right, to do it at any time that you want. So digital, user-centered design, information architecture. It's about people. So we have to talk and connect with people and see what they do and see what kind of challenges you have in the business. What kind of tools do you use to do information architecture? Uh, Exchange, network, things, LinkedIn. So I've put my information about LinkedIn. Connect with me as well. I have a large network of people that are in the field that are looking for all kind of talents. I'll be more than happy to connect you. I'll be more happy to be a reference where I can. If you see that I'm connected with someone, then let me know. But we are all connected in some ways, and not just the teachers at Humber, but us and perhaps in the industry. It's still a small set of people that do use our experience design and do information architecture. So we are a tight community. In fact, I teach with some teacher that I've known for 25 years, and we've met through user experience design when user experience design or I was not even known. So your journey starts today, starts in the class, but it's outside of the class, and I'll be happy to be part of it, and I'll be happy to help. So obviously you knew how to go to get to our collaborate, which is where all the class will take place. And today is what I call hour 1 and hour 2. So we have 2 hours of sync class where it's live, but we are going to have some asynchronous sessions available in the course schedule. And then let me just give you a little bit of insight now, but I will have to share with you that screen. I am new to Blackboard, so I'm very familiar with Zoom, but I'm new to Blackboard. So, but so far it's gone well, except that yesterday in my first class, Blackboard completely froze on me at the very last 5 minutes before the end of the session, so I've lost the class. If we ever lose one another, then what we can do is go back to the announcement. And usually I will send an announcement. And I think the announcement all go into your inbox. So you will get something that will tell you what to do. But think of it as when you go with friends. And awesome. Yes, I know it happens. But think of it when you are traveling with friends or you go to a concert, you say, hey, in case we all get lost, this is our meeting point. Our meeting point is the announcement in case that we all get lost. And I will tell you what we're going to do at that point. So our class schedule. Let's talk about the course schedule. So thank you for being here. Obviously, you've been to Blackboard and you've read and you knew that your class would be today at 10:45 in this Collaborate. So every Wednesday, 10:45 to 12:30, we are together. This is going to be our live session. These 2 hours will be recorded. And then we're going to go through content, lesson, material. Every week, I bring in a topic. And then we're going to do labs, and we're going to do exercise, and we're going to practice. We're going to put into practice what we've learned. So Wednesday is like what you're going to find today. On Thursday, and I know some of you may have classes out of classes, but it's okay. It's going to be recorded. So I'm going to come in Collaborate, and I will open the session just like today. On Thursday also, which is the hour 3 and 4, and from 10:45 to 12:30, this will be similar session. I'm just going to continue and go more through the topic or through the content, and then you will be able to spend the 3 and 4 hours if you want in person, or you can listen to it on your own if you want, or you can do the labs. You can do readings, or you can do the assignments. I'm very sorry. Today is the fire test alarm. So yes, it happens once a month, and it's on Wednesdays. My apology, but we are able to silence it. So on the Thursday, it's up to you to attend in person or not. Live, and I say in person is obviously live, like we are. Yes, the fire alarms are a pain in the condo building, but you don't have to attend if you don't want to. But the beauty of attending is you'll be able to ask questions as well because I will be live. This is the first time I teach this class here at Humber, so I don't have recorded sessions. So these will become a recording session for maybe the next students. But I will be live and I will be going through material, so it will look like today. But if you choose to not come and or you cannot because you have another conflict, then it's okay. It will be recorded, or you may want to choose to work on the lab items, or the readings, or the assignments. So you'll be able to do. Now, hour 5 and 6, because I said we have 6 hours together in this journey. The hour 5 and 6 are Tuesday afternoon from 2:25 to 4:10. So what I will do is I will be available. I will be at my computer between those hours to answer any questions or support any questions. And then you would have to contact me if you want to do so. If we find that we should have a collaborate session and run the sessions, and that is also an option. I would say let's see how the class, the very first class, go. But that is time that I have dedicated to this class on Tuesday for hour 5 and 6 from 2:25 to 4:10. And then if you wish to ask questions, if you want to book some time, if you have any questions about the material, if you have questions about your assignment as your lab, that will be time that I will be available for this class. I may also use that time to maybe go in further in more details. And then I would probably record it. But I'm not planning on recording session 5 and 6 because it will be to use as you wish, as on a need basis. And you don't have to attend. It's really up to you how you want to spend that the hour 5 and 6. I have to fix it. Says you hour 3 and 6 is entirely up to you, but it's hour 5 and 6. So when you think of it, our week for us starts on the Wednesday. So the week and the topic of the week starts on the Wednesday. So the Wednesday we meet, the Thursday we meet, but you have options to meet or not meet or work on the lab and the lab items or the assignments. And then the Tuesday, our week really starts on the Wednesday and then finishes on the Tuesday. And then the assignments due dates are on the assignment. And I believe I put the assignment due dates on the Thursday at till midnight for most of them. Let's just me open up one. I don't want to lie about it. Okay, I put the assignment days on the Wednesday because that's the end of our week as well. So again, assignments, course outline. You will find a course outline. So you should see my Blackboard at this point. The course outline and the course schedules is on the left menu. You have the course schedule, course textbook. We wouldn't go into any detail, but I thought it would be relevant to share with you what the actual course at least schedule would be for the class. And I'm very sorry for the fire alarm. How annoying can that be? But it is what it is. This is part. Sometimes it's the dog barking. I have a dog as well. Her name is Mel. She's in the back. She's usually very good. She's on the bed next to me, but she the fire alarm. So, in terms of the course, and if there are any questions about the course schedule, please let me know. But make sure that you read through the course schedule and the course detail. Really, I'd love for you to come on Wednesday and be there. On Thursday, you're also welcome to come and attend live, but it's really up to you. Wednesday and Thursday session will be recorded, and then Tuesday is time for me to be there to support you for any things that you need. But of course, I'm available, and as I have said on the instructor contact info, is to use a course message. My preference would be for you to use a course message because it's one place to go. But if you choose email or if you choose the course message, I will get an email in any cases. So I will do everything that I can to assist and answer and help you. But feel free to use the course message or emails. Put the course number in your subject title. I have more than 100 students. I teach 4 courses. So there are several of you, but I want to make sure that I get to know, pretty much know everybody where I can. But to help me to answer quickly and have enough context to your ask, to your request, if you're not using course message, please put the information architecture at least in the title, so I know you're part of the information architecture, and then I can give you a better answer. Are there any questions in regards of what I have shared at this point? Okay, so I don't know how familiar you are with Blackboard, but you should see my screen and you should see a slide that says, which mood are you in? And I'd like for you to circle your answer. Perhaps if you've used Blackboard, you know how to circle the answer. So I want you to use the toolbar. And if at the top left, just above the presentation in this slide, you should see like arrow, pointer, shapes, text, do anything that you want. So I'd like to see, wow, I love it. Keep it coming. Which mood? Hey, lazy, I love it. On fire, we have a few people that are on fire. We have someone who's angry. We have someone who's worried. We have a lot of lazy. I know it's still early. It's Tuesday. It's actually Wednesday. It's 11 o'clock. For some of us, mornings are not our best, but we have a fair amount of people that are on fire, which is also good. That she doesn't look like my dog, but almost. So, and we have some angry people and some people that are worried. We have some LOL. This is awesome. Yes, we can draw on screen, you know? Yes, you can. So actually, can I share something with you? And what you will learn from me as a teacher, I'm very, very transparent. So I've been teaching online since just online since July, almost full time. And then I attended the Blackboard, a Blackboard training how to use Blackboard last week with Humber College, and that was their first exercise. And I teacher, and I said I'm gonna steal it away. So here we go. This is how you can actually, yes, you can write on screen. So if at any point you guys need to get my attention or do something, or I mean, you can use this, but use it to I will trust you will use it in an appropriate way, but this is funny. Anyhow, so we have a multiple set of students that have different emotions and different feelings that are enjoying this little capability. This is cute. Engage and fun group. And I'm sorry that some of you are worried and angry, but my goal is to make it fun, to make it that you're going to feel that you want to come and attend and pay attention. On fire is also always very, very good. Angry, well, I hope you'll get through whatever is making you angry. We have some people that are exhausted and worried. So my goal is to also make sure that no one is worried, and we all feel good at the end of the day. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for participating. I had so much fun. I had so much fun of actually putting this slide, but let me share with you. It was not easy to really think about images that would really represent the emotion. And why did I pick these emotions? Because I thought, we either going to feel lazy or we're on fire. Some people are going to be upset. Maybe there's something that has happened. Maybe they actually have no choice to take this class, or maybe some people are worried. And I think we hear a lot of people being worried. But if we think of UX, user information architecture, if we think of user experience design, we have a user, and so that the user actually understand what it is that we want him to do. So I think this was a very good example. For something this simple, I had to do a lot of thinking. I actually had my partner to help me with picking the best images. So we started by saying what kind of emotion we wanted, and then we were searching on images. And then we finally decided on all of these images. But these were not the final images we picked. And then we've said, do we put labels? Don't we put labels? So obviously, when you do good information architecture and good UX design, if you are going to put an image, you want an image to be very, and that would be the rule. And if it's a very good image and it works very fine, well for the user and it's understood, you should not have to have labels. And that is information architecture, by the way, labeling, or even putting labels to specific sections. But I felt that it would be safer for me to put the label and the image. I was in doubt. And then if you're in doubt, I find that there was maybe more advantages of putting the image and the label, so that for those of you that were not 100% of the meaning of the image, at least you had a piece of text that will give you an indicator of what is that image to be meant to be in terms of being representative or not, to help you to make a choice. So you can almost think of that as this is something that may be that you would actually have on the web page, on a website. And then you would want user to select something according to their mood. And then that would be a way to actually get to that area of the content that you would have done the architecture for them. So putting an image and putting a label has, I think, will reduces the ambiguity about this is really about being lazy. Now, is lazy a good term or lazy not a good term? That can be debated, but you would probably do some research, a little bit of research on this, and maybe you would do some experiences. So, how many people felt that you had a challenge of picking images? Were there any challenges to picking images or not, or everything was pretty clear? You can answer on chat. You can tell me if it was easy or if you had a hard time to pick up. Did you have a hard time to actually pick up which image you wanted? Was it hard or easy? Maybe that's the answer. Was it difficult or easy? Okay, so we had not a hard time. Easy, great. This is part of information architecture. This is part of designing. Here's the other element that you also should be aware of is international, right? We all come from different background. We all have different experiences. We're very diverse. So an image of a cat may not be, maybe it doesn't be lazy for someone else. Maybe the dog looks very angry or surprised, and maybe the little girl, she's got something with, that means something else to someone else. So we have to be aware of cultural differences. We have to be aware of differences in the user and the people who's going to be behind. But I just thought this will be a fun exercise, not only for to introduce user experience and information architecture, the feeling that is attached to an image. What does this image mean to you? To connect with you, to get you engaged and show you that you can actually do something on screen as well. And then we're going to do more of that as we go through the semester. So thank you for being so engaged. And then let's continue with the content for today. So again, you can have your camera on if you want. It's always nice to have people, but to be honest with you, I'm really used to be by myself on the cam. Rarely will people come on cam, but if you want to come on cam, you're welcome. If you want to, if you want to come and talk on cam, please do. There's a little raise your hand feature as well that you want to maybe use. This is the little the pointer. Let me see my pointer. Where's my pointer? Yeah, I can't see my pointer, but at the bottom of your screen below the class presentation, you will see where you can mute yourself, you can show your video, you can raise your hand. When you click on raise your hand, I actually see a little hand being raised next to you on the chat, and then I can actually answer questions. But I would say sometimes it's quicker for you to just unmute and then may I interrupt? Please, I want you to interrupt, okay? So that I will be able to answer your question at that moment. Because what may happen is sometimes when I switch from one screen to another screen, I may not see the chat or I may not see what is happening on the Blackboard. And that could very well happen, but I try to mitigate that. But if it happens, please come voice. Sometimes it's a lot quicker, a lot easier. But if you choose chat, then I will see it if I'm in front of Blackboard as well. Great. So what we're going to do, I put that we will put introduction, but it's going to be hard for anybody to really come forward. But please do it on the discussion board on the Blackboard. It will be fun, and I will answer, and I will be able to. I will look forward to grading you as well. We're going to do a quick course overview. We're going to look at the requirements, the critical path. We're going to start talking about information architecture. What is information architecture? Very high level. Why do we do IAs? What is IA? What is navigation? What is the flow? What are some of the components? What are the information needs? And then what are the different ways that people are actually searching or looking for information? And also what triggers maybe the need for a new information architecture? Because what you will find is when I started, and I will introduce myself, 25 years ago, or almost 25 years ago, as a user experience design, and I was doing a lot of information architecture because we were like building. Digital was new, right? So there were no websites. In fact, the websites at the time were just like very information based. So it was very, very information based. It was not a tool like Collaborate. It was not a tool like Blackboard. It was not like it was not a tool like the tools as you've been using them today. But for those of you that are around my age, the web was just like information. It was content, information, and then it would tell you something about the brand and something about the business, and then you would actually probably call the business to do business with them. It was not even really transactional. So we were in building stages. Here we are now, 25 years later. These things are built. So you're not going to come across a lot of businesses that have no information architecture unless they're a new business, unless you're starting from scratch. But you will probably going to come to a business that actually has an existing website, and you're probably going to be asked to actually add to the existing IA, or you're going to be asked to improve the existing IA. So you're not going to start necessarily from scratch. There'll be something for you to work with, but it still need to understand how do we do good information architecture, and this is why you've taken that class. So I would like to hear, I don't know if anybody wants to come forward, but do you guys feel that that in fact some of you are involved in information architecture, and you're not necessarily building from scratch, but you're more asked about doing and optimizing or enhancing an existing information architecture? Do we have anybody who feels that way, and this is what your story has about? I would love to hear if anybody wants to come forward. And please don't be shy. You'll make this content as interesting, this class, as me speaking as you participating. Do we have anybody who wants to share what their experiences with either, whether you're building or whether you're more optimizing? Okay, so Maggie on chat. Yes, I'm a librarian and have done this. I'm currently cataloging things. That's awesome. Great. So you're using something existing. You're using the real world, right? You're using the real world metaphor of being in the library and working as a librarian, and now you're trying to bring the digital, to make it digital. From what I understood, right, Maggie? You're trying to bring the physical world to the online world as a librarian. So and you're going to do that. So you're kind of building, but you're not really building. You're building something new online, but you're using a reference of being the librarian and the library of what people will do in real library. Did I understand correctly? Okay, yeah, as a point of reference. Awesome. Great. So this is good. You will find a lot of people in information architecture come from librarian science, information system, information management, librarian system. In fact, user experience people will come from a very, very broad knowledge: psychology, journalism, librarian, ethnography, social sciences. So it's all very, very broad and very diverse. But this is awesome. And please feel free to introduce yourself, Maggie, and tell us more about your awesome project. And also ask for help. You guys can ask for help on the discussion board among yourself. I'm going to introduce you very quickly as well, but I doubt that we're going to be able to go through all the deck today. We're going to talk about Latch at some points, but it will be on your own, mostly on your own. And but it will be something for you to learn about how you can actually categorize and help categorize content. So that said, just a little bit about me. This is not all about me, but I just want to give you a little bit of context as to who I am and what is information architecture for me. What have I done when it comes to information architecture? And great. I was just looking at my note on chat. So, as I've mentioned, I've been in businesses. I've been working in real businesses for about almost 25 years. I have been teaching almost full time now, been teaching since last July online. So I've been teaching online, but I taught in the past for 5 years. I was teaching digital marketing in class, in person and in class in Montreal. I'm from Quebec, so I'm French speaking. First language is French. I'm sure you've noticed by now. And I've learned at school English, and then I moved here in 1992. I've been here a long time, but I went to Montreal for a little period, and I'm back. But I came in. I've been a digital specialist for all these years, but my career started in user-centered design, so in UX centered design. So I was finishing up my psychology, my degree in psychology, and then I've met some people that were doing usability, IA, information architecture, and I got really, really interested in what it is that they were doing. I was really in love with the user aspect, user experience, conducting research, doing user experience. We're going to learn about some research methodology in this class, getting to know the user and looking at users, using new technology, and then improving it and make it better. But my psychology was really what was driving me to that. But then I was really, really in love with digital and designing experiences. So I built a lot of information architecture at that point. So at that point, I did my Master's of Education at OISE, and then I worked with a teacher who was in the software design and a tool that looks very similar to Blackboard that was being used in elementary school with kids to have online chat, like forum. It was called Knowledge Forum. And then they were using technology to help enhance knowledge, students to reflect, and with the goal of making learning a better experience. So I had a great time as working with that teacher, and this is where I've learned with my professor, and I did a lot of courses about research, UX, user experience design, and then I did UX for about 10 years of IAs, building wireframes, and conducting usability studies and user research. And I was loving it. And I did it with multiple businesses, with some web agencies. And then at some point, what I wanted to do was I wanted to understand more about businesses and how do we fit UX? How do we fit user experience design? How do we bring information architecture into the mix of a business so that we are successful when we design software? Now, not only that, but I also wanted to be a VP of UX, a VP of customer experience, a VP of user experience. But I felt that UX and UIA and anything related to user was as important as marketing, as important as finance, as important as HR, that we need to have executives that will be able to influence the big decisions and really, really care about the user and always bring the user element. So at that point, I did my MBA. And I also specialized in digital at that point. So, and then that led me to be able to build digital practices for big companies. I spent 7 years at Air Canada Vacations in Montreal. I was in charge. I was a senior director of digital, and I built teams. I've built a digital practice. I've hired, I've managed, I've coached. But I was the only UX. I didn't have enough money. I didn't have big budgets to really hire someone necessarily dedicated when I think of Air Canada Vacations. So I ended up doing a lot of the UI. I ended up doing the information architecture. I ended up doing the wireframings. I did the usability testing and everything that goes with it. And then I spent some time at Rogers, a long time at Rogers, optimizing digital. I was always the one that was the champion of UX. Same thing at Flight Center and same thing at Sunwing. My most recent experience in the business was at Sunwing. And I was responsible for the entire customer journey. So knowing the customer, understanding the customer touch points, the journey from customer acquisition to buying, a product, to pre-travel before their travel, when they're traveling, when they come back. What is that experience that we want to deliver to those customers? How do we architect those experiences? How do we architect the information? How do we architect content? How do we validate? How do we test? How do we get the user involved? How do we validate with users? How do we track them? How do we optimize those experiences? That's what I've been for more than 25 years. So this is how I ended up being asked to teach at Humber. And this is my first semester at Humber. So I'm teaching this class. I'm really, really happy, very grateful. I will bring a lot of real experiences in different industries, real life experiences, and share with you how I have used eyes, how I've used the techniques, and then how we've made significant impact in businesses and working, and even speaking about what kind of people do we work with when we do eyes. So we don't work alone, we're with people. What does that look like? So my goal is to share some of this with you in the next 7 weeks. It's a short journey, very, very condensed, but the good point, the positive is we're meeting so closely that it's all going to be fresh, and you guys will probably get a lot more than if it was spread over 13 weeks. Are there any questions about my past, what I have done, my passion when it comes to I? Okay. So let's continue. So as I said, please go through discussion board, and the discussion board, let me just show you quickly. So the discussion board on Blackboard, there are 3 forums. So one of them is introduce yourself. So you can come and introduce yourself. We have some topics on this week. I put some questions. You guys can exchange there if you want. Oh, I have to create the thread. But I have, there's a piece that I have to add to this week's discussion. But this is where, where I have some questions at the end of the module that I will put there that you can guys can brainstorm about as class, as teams, and have fun around it on your own time as well, so that you can expand and go further in some of the things that we actually are learning in class that we'll be discussing. Because as you can imagine, there's so much to talk about that it's going to be hard to be able to go in depth in certain areas. But where I feel that we need to spend the time, then we will, okay? Sharing with you a little bit of my teaching philosophy. So I want to make you think. So as a teacher, I don't want to give all answers. I want to make you think. So sometime when you may ask the questions, or I may ask you the question differently, and I want to make you think through the questions so that you find your own answer. That I find is a lot more powerful than giving you the answers, because I can see what you already know, and I can find ways to make you bridge the gap and find the answers on your own. And that's a lot more powerful, and that will help you, because often you'll be on your own, okay? So I will do that. I will teach you real life experiences. I will find ways to teach you transferable skills. So information architecture is a very important skills, but you're never going to be alone. You're going to have to make decisions. Information architecture is done with people. It's inclusive, there's collaboration, there's participation. It's trying to solve certain things. Maybe there will be some analytics things that you're going to need to think about. So I look at other skills that often you're going to find in job descriptions that will be useful for you through my teaching where I can, so that you learn more than just about the mechanic of doing information architecture, okay? There's a question on the chat, so let me just see. Should you think it will be easier for the UX design researcher when having a background, psychology background? Okay, so Min, that's a good question. Do I think it's easier if you have psychology background? I would say I think we all have to be curious. We all have to be curious as individuals if we are in this field that we chose to. The more we know about people, the better, because we're designing for people. You're designing for users, okay? I did my degree in psychology, but do I remember everything? No, I don't. But I was curious enough to know where to go to find the answers. So it's about knowing or wanting to find out more about the customer and the user. There is no better way to know about the user than doing user research. Okay, so I would say if there's one thing that if you don't have time to do psychology courses, if you don't have to do courses that talks about human, find ways to learn about usability testing, or do some testing, or do some research. Follow the user, go to look at user using your software and your technology, and you'll learn a lot about what is happening for them. So that would be my first advice, my piece of advice. But read about people, read about psychology, read about the techniques to find ways to learn more about the user of your product. That's how I would go about it. So yes, it brings a perspective, but I do think that all perspectives are good. But never forget that you're designing for consumer. The more you know about them, the better. But there are ways to know other than just in the classroom, I would think. The classroom will force you to be dedicated to that time in that moment to learn about. But there's still things you have to learn and continue to learn on your own, right? So that's what I would do. Okay, but yes, everything that we do very much is about knowing the users, but it doesn't mean that you have to be sitting in a classroom to learn about the users. Okay, there are ways that you can do that. I will find ways to give you opportunities to discover on your own. Sometimes I will give you questions. I want you to think and try to relate to what you already know, so that you can open up to what you know, and then what's missing, and then find the answers. And then do a little bit of investigation, and then we come back and we talk about it, and then you'll be able to see where you were actually good, and where you see where maybe there were some gaps. There is no one recipe in doing good information architecture. There's no one recipe in doing good categorization or labeling, but there's just a framework and a methodology, and having the right mindset, having the right methodology, asking yourself the right question, and then you will find solution and recipe that will work for you and for your users. But there's no one recipe. It's like design. It's very creative, right? There's not one way of doing information architecture, but there are certain things you need to look at that you will learn in this class to make sure that you're actually checking that it's a good information architecture that the user will understand when you put them in front of your product. Now, the hard work pays off. I do see people that attend classes, people that participate in classes, people that do the labs, people that do the assignments do better overall. And that will only help you as people in a job. So you're going to be alone at work. Maggie, who's doing the librarian work, she's accountable for doing a good IA for the librarian and where she works. So the more she's engaged, the more she participates, the better she'll be equipped to actually make the best decision for her real work. So you do this for you. I'm not going to track attendance, because you know what? At the end of the day, if you don't show up and if you don't participate, you're going to get the marks that will go with. But then you're not going to have the baggage that you need to be a good IA or a good user-centered design. So really, it's up to you to make this the best. But I will give you pointers as to where you go, where you should go, and based on what businesses need and businesses expect as IA. So in this class, you're going to learn how to create effective information architecture and understand why. Why do I do this? Why do we care? Why do we care about good eyes? What do I need to be aware of when it comes to information architecture? But you will learn that information architecture is one little piece of user experience design. I'm obviously not going to be able to teach you everything when it comes to UX and user experience design. But at least, hopefully, I'll give you enough curiosity to maybe wanting to know more. Okay, so but for the time being, obviously it's going to be about information architecture, but I would say try to learn more or understand more about how doing user research to validate your information architecture with real user. This is where you're going to learn so much more about consumer. If you do that, that's a good step forward. So this is IA. So I have a little image of what an information architecture looked like, and I'm sure most of you have seen an information architecture before. If not, then this is usually how you're going to see the information architecture. Okay, the good IA makes information easy to find for users. So you want the user to be able to find what they're looking for. I'm going to share with you how do most people actually come to your UA in the first place. Knowing the user, knowing where they came from, knowing what happened before they actually come to your website makes a big difference. Makes a difference to navigate through your IA. So a good IA also has to be aligned with business strategy and the business priorities. So users are important, but it's not all about users. So as an IA, you need to design the best experience for your user experience, but you also need to support the business. You need to align with the business, the priorities of the business. And sometimes the business will ask you to do something that you may know that is not the best for the users. You will have to choose. Do I continue to put my foot on the ground, or do I let go? What are the risks? What's the risk of listening to the business, or what's the risk versus not doing what I think is the best for the users? And there's no answer. There's no one answer to that. That will be your judgment. Okay, so you will have to know your business. You will have to know, where do I continue to push, or where do I stop? And sometimes it's choosing your battle too. Also knowing the risk. Okay, how much of really of an impact this will have on the user versus how it's going to help our business, how it's going to help me as an information architecture specialist to build trust, build credibility, show that I'm collaborating, show that I'm a team player, show that I listen to the business, versus only do what I think is good for the user and be completely disconnected from the business. That will lose you points. So when I say I'm going to teach you real life and things outside of IA, that's probably a good thing. You need to learn everything about IA, but at some point you need to adjust your messaging to the business and make sure that the business feels that you're taking into account the business, user, and business. There is room for meeting the business, meeting the user need, meeting the technology needs, and delivering on the business. So one of the questions on chat is, I feel like it was are information architecture and information hierarchy the same? I'm just curious. I would say, and this is something you're going to learn from me, I don't get too caught up in terminology. Okay, so information architecture or information hierarchy is, I would say, similar. It is probably one of the same. At the end of the day, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to describe? I will never quiz you and penalize you on necessarily if you haven't chosen the exact specific terms that I think that you should be using, if I know that you understood what it is that you were trying to do. So here your answer, Min, would be yes. To me, they will be the same. Information architecture or information hierarchy is we are structuring content. So think of this. You are making decisions about how do I structure content so that my user can find what they're looking for. And there are other things that you're going to be paying attention to make sure that it's a good eye. But information architecture, but maybe you're going to find different definitions. But in this class, it's one and the same. It's information. And then you're often going to hear IA as being one of the same. So good IA will make it easy for user, and it's aligned with business, and it makes the product discoverable so that the major search engine can actually find your website. Now, we're not gonna touch a lot about findability, and maybe some of you have heard of search engine optimization. Do we have anybody who's heard about search engine optimization before? Great. Awesome. So search engine optimization, yes, we have a few people that have been exposed. That's awesome. Search engine optimization is somehow linked to information architecture, and there's a technical aspect. I'm not going to go into the details, but a good IA, yes, SEO, exactly. Search engine optimization stands for, or SEO stands for search engine optimization. Your site architecture will help with search engine optimization. And Google is very, very picky when it comes to search engine optimization. Your labels will have an impact on search engine optimization. Your site architecture also has to be architected so that Google can actually crawl. You're gonna hear crawl. Crawl your site architecture and understand your site architecture, your sitemap. You're gonna hear sitemap so that he can actually go from your home page. If we look at the graph here, Google will be able to go to your from the home page, and then Google will say, oh, shoe website, and then he'll see women's shoes, and then Google will say, okay, what's next on the women's shoes, and then he'll see high heel shoes, then he'll say high heel shoes. Then he will click on the heel shoes and say, what do I see? And then he'll see product one. There are things that your IA has to do as well, but we're not going to have a chance to really talk through the details. But that Google will be able to crawl and go from the top to the bottom and to that product and know what each section is and what they're called and be able to see what the content is on the page. He will look at the content, what is on the product pages, and he will make a copy of everything that he finds. And then Google will know that when someone searches for women's shoes, high heels, women's shoes, then what Google will do, he will say, this website has women's shoes heel. And I know because I was able to see, I was able to crawl, I was able to go, I was able to read it. And then he will show your website to a search engine, to the user that was looking at women's shoes, high heel shoes. That is what I will actually do to Google to find. So good IAs are designed for business and users. So they're very impactful, okay? And then we have someone who said that she studied content strategy. Okay, information architecture, content. It's very difficult to talk about IA and not talk about content. So it's highly related. And then we design information architecture based on the user goal. What is the user trying to do? But then also, what kind of content do we have? What content do we want to include? What content do we want to include? What content do we want to actually include at this level? What content do we want to include at this level? Then what do we do in here? What do we do in here? Should we have a third one? Should we have one here? This is IE. Now, how do I do this? How do we decide on all of this? There's no one recipe, but there's a structure. Most IE will have this. So it will start with, I'm trying to see how I can do this. So it will start with this, and then you're always going to have then something going like this, something like this. Let me change color. And then you're probably going to have a third level, third level, third level, third level. We're going to talk about categories. All IAs have something that looks like this. Anybody can do IA, anybody can learn Visio, anybody can learn any tool and put boxes. And in fact, it's easy. But the most difficult is what are the things that you put inside each one? How do you call these things? How many do you put? Do you put 3? Do you put 4? Do you put 2? You're going to see there's no one standard. But you just have to pick, and you need to know why you picked this. So yes, content strategy, highly tied together. What this course is about, I will teach you concept, I will teach you methods, I will teach you techniques for designing effective information architecture to deliver good user experiences so that people will find that there's something for them when they actually come to you. And then Google will find you. Google will find your site. Google will be able to put your site to the top when people are looking for your product as well. It will help. It helps everybody. It helps the business. It helps the user. It helps the user to find and do business with you. So it improves the experience. It improves the overall customer experiences as well. So that was a quick little intro. There's housekeeping, class admin rules that we all follow when we are at Humber. So this is the boring side, but I need to share it with you. We have academic integrity and plagiarism rules that are very important. There are policies that are available on Blackboard. Please make sure that you are familiar with. If you haven't done any courses with Humber yet, go to Blackboard, and the content is below the class material. You will find or different policies, or diversity, very inclusive, accessibility. So we are accessible, and then plagiarism. So we have to make sure that you submit is your assignment. We have a tool in Blackboard for all assignment that actually looks for plagiarism. And from the moment that there is plagiarism, in my other class, in my other school, it's a 0% mark. So that is not something that you want to happen, and unfortunately it has happened. But please make sure that you're familiar with the Humber Plagiarism Integrity School. I want the work to be your own work. And it says, please refer to page 8 of the programming book for details on Humber policy regarding academic misconduct. We believe in integrity, and I have zero tolerance. The school has zero tolerance for plagiarism, and when we find plagiarism, there are penalties. So please don't get to that point. It would be unfortunate because you will be so invested in this class. Blackboard. Blackboard is a primary mode of communication and the tool that we will use to submit your assignments, view your grades. If you have not already gone to Blackboard, please go through Blackboard. Let me just show you where you're going to find some of this material. Very, very important. I have spent a good information architecture. Guess what? I had to design an information architecture as I was designing the course in Blackboard. So again, there was not one recipe. The school gave us a template so that we are somehow consistent among all teachers. Why would we want to do that? So what would be the benefit to have a template for the students to somehow follow? So why would we have a template and try to have a similar information architecture in Blackboard for the students? Anybody has an idea of why we would want to maybe bring consistency? This is part of IA. Yes, so Sebastian said, so it's consistent. We know what to expect. Exactly. You have how many classes? How many classes do some of you have? Yes, usability heuristic. Okay, so you guys have followed other classes. So maybe you have 2, maybe you have 3, maybe you have 4 classes. Imagine, but unfortunately, nothing guarantees that all teachers are following the same. Imagine if we all have different ways of designing courses, classes, which I think still sometimes happens. It will be hard for your learning, right? So it's knowing our students, knowing learning, knowing, teaching, and trying to maybe bring what we know from real class, like I think Maggie is doing for her librarian, and bring it to an online. So I had to design information architecture. It's maybe not the best, but I try to stick to the template, and I try to also design it that it will be useful for you, so that you can relate. So I have put assignment. Under assignment and grades, I have put assignments. And then right below it, you have weekly material. But assignments, you will have all of the assignments that you will have for this class are listed here. So and I think that I've made most that you can actually even see what the assignments will be. Okay, so let's click on one of the assignments. You will see the due date. So this assignment, the card sorting assignment, is due for February 10 at 11:59, and then 25%. It's 25% of your mark, and then you have the PDF. So all assignments have been loaded. So you will know all of your due dates for your assignment. These are all the assignment with the percentages, and all assignments are due by midnight. The day of by midnight. Late policy, 5% per day to a maximum of 25%. And if no assignments will be accepted at 5 days. So make sure you're not late, because you lose 5%, and then after 5 days, no mark. It's 0. So that is a policy we're trying to follow for the program, for all students that are in the program, whether it's certificate or the bachelor degree. And that is according to our school policy. And then as I said, all assignments are there, and you can find more details about them, about each one if you want. We're going to talk more about the assignment as we get to the assignment. Let me just go back to the presentation. So Blackboard is the main place that we talk. It's the main place where you can send me an email through the course message. And then this is where I load the assignment. This is where I put all of the weekly material. And we're going to go in more details about that as well. But I really invite you to go through, and this is where you're going to find most information and probably answer to your questions. And if you have questions, please let me know. But yes, this is the link to the main class. So that was one of the questions. Deadlines. We've already talked about deadlines. Instructions. Make sure that we follow the instruction. We're going to go through the instruction for the assignment. But often we find that a lot of the errors, people are missing points because they forget to answer some questions, which is very unfortunate. There are some weekly readings that I expect you to read, to go through, as well. And then the class lectures. We've talked about the class lecture, when they happen. Hour 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and then 5 and 6 are more labs or time for you on your own as well. I will make the class lecture available after each Wednesday. So after today's class, the class lecture, this PowerPoint will be available, but Blackboard is also available to you. And the recordings are kept there on Collaborate and attendance. Key for your success. I will not be marking attendance. You are adults. The more you attend, the better you will do. The program outcome. I'm not going to go through the program outcome because we have, it's available in the course outline and you guys can read on your own. But you will learn about information architecture, that you will feel better equipped and know what to look for when it comes time to do eyes, and you will practice. And if you're already doing eyes, you will be better at it. If you've never, you will feel more confident. Assignments. So I briefly talk about the assignments, but let me just do a quick overview of what the assignments names will be. And again, you come to Blackboard and you go to assignments. How useful is that? The one rule with information architecture is calling the things what they are. So if something is an assignment, call it assignments. Why be cute? Why be creative? And that's the mistake that a lot of companies will do. And why do they do it? Because sometimes people just are getting tired of their own information architecture. They're tired of their own labels. And marketing will say, let's be creative and original and differentiate ourselves. Well, sometimes differentiate yourself can actually hurt your user. And you will hear that, okay? So you will hear that marketing will say, we need to differentiate ourselves. You as expert will need to see what is the balance between differentiating and hurting the user. So I would say, and I don't know if I say your name correctly, or if you have, so Faro Daba, or if Faro, so maybe you want to realign me, I would appreciate. So
sorry, you call me Dana. This just took my actual name, like the official name.
Dana?
I didn't have a chance to write Dana. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, perfect. I'll make note of it. Thank you, Dana. And if by any chance I use the name that I see on screen, my apology, but I made a note. Okay, so yes, should we change the names and labels? So you're gonna learn, why do we do IA? Sometime in opening a parenthesis, it's really difficult to do information architecture and not really be comfortable with data, analytics or data. So just like one of the students said, hey, should I have a degree in psychology? No, you don't have to have a degree in psychology, but knowing about the user is important. No, do I need to be a specialist in data analytics? You don't, but you should be familiar with analytics. You should be able to go to some analytics to find out what are people going to on my website, because information architecture is your website. It's the content, it's the sections that you have on your website. It's the main navigation. It's everything that people can click through should have a piece of data around it. So you may find that you have, let's see if I can just open up and look at the real option. Hey, let's look at some travel. Nice last minute travel vacation. Would it be not nice to be able to just go somewhere, but it's pandemic, so it's very difficult to go in any places, but let's see. I'm going to share with you. Cancel. Just want to share this screen. Okay, just want to see. Stop sharing. Okay, we're going to shop. It looks like Blackboard has a maximum number of screen that you can share at any given time. Okay, so let's say that we were at, you work at Sunwing. And Sunwing, you want to know if this is the best information architecture. So let's look at some element. When I click on Sunwing, that takes me to the home page. So you're going to see in the sitemap, when you hear site architecture, you're going to hear sitemap. The sitemap will show home button. There's no home button. So in this case, the Sunwing sitemap will probably say Sunwing home, and the logo is the home. But you need to have a place where you can click on home. Very often, what you're going to find is people will click to the home button will click on Sunwing, and they expect to go home. That has become a standard. And by now, we all know this, but 25 years ago, we was not necessarily known as a standard. So we needed to have something called home so that people know that they can click and home is the place. But I think more and more people have learned that clicking on the logo will take them to the equivalent of taking home. So these will evolve, and you will see standards do evolve. Knowing what when you define IAs as well. It's, in fact, you should be looking at standards. Why would it be, why should we look at standards? Why should we look at what others do? What does that do to the user? Can anybody share with me why we would care about looking at standards? Yes, so Maggie, yes, they can recognize. It gives them sense of what to expect, familiarity, less cognitive load. Wow, you guys have some good basis. Yes, so there's an expectation. So think of this. Users are using the web. Users are online. They're using the internet. They have expectation. They've learned. We've trained them. So the more you can align with what they know and what they've seen, the quicker they'll be able to use your product, the quicker they'll be able to find what they're looking for. Okay? Someone said, yeah, I hate the carousel. Carousels drive some people crazy. Some other people just ignore them. Now we're just looking at it because it's on screen, right? But yes, there's a mixed feeling about carousel. So packages, if we start looking at some of the information architecture elements, you would see the home. The home, Sunwing is the home. But then you have packages, flights, things to do, cruises, groups. You may actually, this is part of your information architecture. Sunwing has made decision to have these labels, these sections on your site available. Sunwing has made a decision to call these things a particular thing. But as you do your analytics and your data analytics and your data review with your data yourself, or you ask someone, you may actually find that people are not too many people are clicking on packages. And then packages is probably maybe the things that you want people to go the most. So maybe you need a new label. Maybe maybe packages need to be in a different place. Maybe there's something else that you need to do about packages. Maybe you're going to find that there's something happening with flights. Maybe you're going to find that things to do doesn't get a lot of clicks. Does that mean that at this point we have to change the name or not? We don't know, but you may have to do some changes. You may have to do to revise some of the labels that you've used. So we're going to talk more in depth about this. But that is, yes, the answer is yes. Sometimes you have to actually change and then come up with new labels and maybe add new sections as well on as part of your IA. And that's part of designing IAs. And we're going to share, we're going to learn how do we do that, and when do we do that, and when does it make sense to even do it. Okay, so let's carry on. Do we have any questions so far? Any feedback? Is the pace a good pace? Am I going too fast? Am I going too slow? You can say fast, slow in the chat if you want. This is part of me getting feedback about my audience. Okay, awesome. So far, good. It's okay if, oh, someone has drawn something. That's cute. You can draw, you can put little hearts if you want, up to you. Okay, so let's review some of the assignment. And now we have a little heart. I'm just going to share it quickly. Yes, I've put all the assignments. They're all visible, so you can see. You can already start looking at them. You can already start preparing. It's a short semester. The more you can be proactive, the better. But just make sure that if you start working on some of the assignment, that you integrate the content. I want to make you learn something, right? So there are 1, 2, 3, 4 assignments for this class. The first one would be a card sorting assessment, which is 20%. The second one will be an I. We're going to do information architecture site mapping, but there'll be 2 parts to it. One part A, will be the actual site map and really the site architecture. So similar to the boxes, the home, and then there was the shoe, the woman's shoes, men's shoes, high heel shoes. So we're going to do that. And the second part will be more about the actual also flow and the navigation and the search element to IA information architecture, which is all very important. But so we divided up IA site mapping into 2 pieces. One is, I believe, 15% and one is 10%. And then there's a final IA navigation project design. So that is the big project that will sum it up, everything that you've learned. And that is 30%. So for a total of 100%. So these are assignments, and then they're all there. There's not much detail for some of them, but I will be providing more details as we get closer to the assignments. But at least you know the due dates, okay? So you can get a sense of due dates, when things are due, and then see how that fits with everything else that you have in your class. Plan accordingly. I don't know if you're familiar, but in Collaborate, there's a calendar. Okay, the calendar, because I've put all the assignments, you can see in the calendar the assignment for this class. You see, everything is here. Me, I see all my assignments for all the classes that I teach. But if you go to your main page, when you come to the landing page, if we use the terminology in IA and someone use that terminology, you have all announcement, you have your calendar, you can see all assignments in the calendar and the date that they're due on, because it was put in because I have the assignments in the course. Okay, so let's continue with the other material. Great, someone likes my information architecture. Well, I better be good at what I teach. Otherwise, you're going to question my credibility, right? So I really think I really had to put myself in the shoe of a student so that the content and the structure makes sense to you. And if you think that I can do something better to improve it, please let me know, okay? But I had to do information architecture. I had an audience, you as a student. You have expectations, you know about school. So really, when you think of it, I really had to do my own architecture, the own architecture. We could do the class could be about architecting, collaborate, and how we should architect it. But really think when you think of it, when you think of architecture, the very first step, again, we're going into architecture, okay? So you may think that we're diverging, but we are actually talking about architecture and designing site architecture. So I'm just gonna go back to Blackboard. This is all relevant. That just means that there might be areas that we're gonna be able to skip. I had to do site architecture for collaborate for this class called information architecture. I had you as an audience. I had students. I had to know about who is actually using my site architecture. And maybe you've never used collaborate, maybe you've used collaborate, but I wanted to make sure that whether you use collaborate or not use collaborate, you're not being penalized. I did not want to stick to Humber terminology. I wanted to stick to a terminology that I thought would be most relevant for most students in the class. So really, I had a class, I had a bunch of topics that, or things, or buckets of elements I had to find a place. So announcement, we all have announcement, right? An announcement is an announcement. Could it be message? Could it be announcement? I chose announcement. Then we have a section called course messages. Maybe that's almost like inbox, Outlook, equivalent inbox, messages, email. It could be many things. And as I said, there's no one recipe, but I said, let's call it course messages. And that's the template they give us. Then I have online classroom, Blackboard collaborate. I could have called it Blackboard collaborate. But let's say you don't know Blackboard. You've never been to Blackboard. You and some of you, do we have anybody who's new to Blackboard? Just say yes in chat if you want. If you did and you don't know Blackboard Collaborate, and if I call this only Blackboard Collaborate, you don't even know what that is. I said I'm going to say online classroom. This is the online classroom, and then I put in brackets Blackboard Collaborate, just for those of you that know. So you had someone who doesn't know, then okay, online classroom is probably where I go for the class. And if I know about Blackboard Collaborate, then I know that this is also the place. Now, in this architecture, something else that you will notice, I put it to the very top. Versus maybe the weekly class, versus other links. I have a bit of a sense in this. Its site architecture can also suggest priority, frequency of use, priority, knowing the user, knowing how often, knowing what they need to do at any given time. What is repeated, what is not so much repeated. The most often used at the top. Yes, absolutely. The more you know about the user and their task and what they try to do, it will help you to make decision. What if I put announcement to the bottom after all these things? And you have to scroll for it all the time. And if you notice with Collaborate, I am restricted to a specific site structure, right? So I have to work in the environment of Blackboard. There isn't much that I can really change in Blackboard, but I can control all of the left items, the things that I want. I have full control on these, okay? And then I can move things around. So I have to make a lot of decisions, and this, is really, really impactful. It can make a difference between a good experience or a bad experience, okay? And then I had a section called discussion board. This is where we have a discussion board. I can move it if I wanted. So Collaborate, I'm limited into a structure, but I can navigate and I can make different choices and I can move. So this is part of, you're gonna have a technical reality. Your eye is gonna need to fit within a technical framework that may put some obstacles into your information architecture or ideal information architecture, but you will have to make choices, and that's okay. But you will happen. Okay, so good question, Foro. so how did you start going over the Blackboard website considering it was new to you and you didn't fully know the user? So very, very good question. I went in. I went in. So I went in as as someone who did not know Blackboard, and everybody's very busy. So I was supported by the team who's supporting Blackboard, but I was pretty much on my own. But it's okay to go on my own. There was an advantage of going as someone who doesn't know. Why? Because I was going at it as a user too. I have done online classes as I'm teaching as a teacher, but I have also taken online classes. So I've done a lot of my studies online, and I've also learned a lot about education and how do we help learning and how do we make learning more engaging. So I'm sure you'll have an opinion, good or bad, but that's okay. I'm not perfect. So I went in and I explored. I went in and explored and said, what is in Blackboard and how is Blackboard designed? And try to relate to the things that I know and to the things that I think that a student will care about, right? I had a bit of a sense of what students are trying to do when they come to, right? I teach with another school and we use not Blackboard, but we use something called Canvas. So I was able to relate a lot of things that I knew and see where do I find what I find in Canvas. I teach with another class, another school. I use Canvas. They use what we call Canvas. But here's what I knew was very similar. I have announcements. I have my weekly. So someone else used Canvas, Maggie. My weekly classes. I have lectures. I have assignments. I have class recordings. I have Zoom. I have a calendar. So I have things, you see, and that's really, really important when you do information architecture is when you think of class teaching, what is teaching? What is all teaching about? What, as a student, what do I see what is the teaching? What is my teaching experience? What do I know about teaching? What do I know about learning? So I can already see and say, where do I find these things on Blackboard? So I went to Blackboard and I said, where do I find announcements? I went, great. Where do I find messages? Where do I find my weekly classes? Where do I find assignments? Where do I find tasks? So I was trying to see where do I find these things? And then as I was finding them, then I would say, where are they in the right order? Are they called? Are they exactly called how I call them in Canvas? Are they exactly called how I've seen them in other places where I've learned online? So I was doing an assessment. I was doing a lot of things, but it started for one thing, and very, very good question, Dana, is the users. Putting myself, so I was kind of playing two roles here. I was putting myself as, what do I know as a teacher that I have used in Canvas that I think has worked well with the students? Then, so that was one way I was looking at it. And so I was looking for the things that I knew I should expect to find. Then I've looked at it from a, how is this going to be useful for the students? What will students be thinking? Or what will students be looking for? What will be the names, the terminology that they're familiar with? Not the Blackboard. So if you notice, I don't really talk much about Blackboard. I don't really say Blackboard. I say Blackboard for Blackboard collaboration. Now, why did I choose to say Blackboard collaboration, as I said? Because you may know what Blackboard collaboration is, and maybe someone will specifically looking for this. But if you're a new student, you're probably going to be looking for something that will, say my online class or my online class. But even then, online classroom is probably one that you would probably need to have a bit more insight and feedback from students to see if it's something that really resonates well with the students. Then I went on and I did more exploration, and then I said, I think I need to redesign or design this way. And then I have 3 courses at Humber that I'm teaching, and I try to use the same structure, and I will probably try to adapt as I get more feedback about it. And then this information architecture will evolve probably. I'm going to learn about stats. I have access to each of the section, how many people access the sections. And then I can learn inside and make some adjustments. And maybe I'm going to hear from you that maybe there's something that I should do as well, different than the way that we've structured it. So we're touching on information architecture as I'm sharing with you the content slash I'm actually teaching you about information architecture. So we're really diving in. So I don't know if you guys are enjoying this so far, but we are talking about information architecture deep in. This is IA, but it all starts from the users. And as an information architecture, you are a big piece of it. As an expert, you are a big piece of you are part of the toolkit to design good information architecture as you as because and how are you going to become better is by doing a lot of research with real user, seeing, looking at them, using your information architecture. There's no other way of learning about users but sitting with them, observing them, watching them, having them talk. So some of you may have done usability testing or not. That is another class that I teach this semester. This is the only way that you really know because there are always surprises. I would learn a lot if I were to actually watch any of you using Blackboard and see how you use Blackboard, and it would probably inform me on some changes that I would make to the eye. My course philosophy is to teach you obviously new ability. And I will, if I find opportunity to do anything, to teach you anything that will help you at a personal level in the business, I will. If I think that maybe there's something I can teach you interpersonal, how you deal with teams and how you talk to other classmates, I will as well. I'm here to teach you real life. Of course, I cannot teach everything, and there are things that are not for me to teach, but I will look for opportunities to help you to be successful in life where I find that there's a strong connection with IA and to make you successful in businesses. There will be some self-assessment or some time for you to reflect on your learning, practice. There will be some practice, and then we are trying to solve real problems. So I would hope that for the assignments are looking at real life website. The assignments are trying to attempt to see how do we improve a real business that has a challenge, that has a need for improving their IA, and then how do we define success? How do we make it relevant and good for them? So a typical week, really, we kind of talked about this through the course schedule. So I really invite you to look at the course schedule so that you will know. And as you know now, we're meeting every Wednesday, and we're meeting every Thursday. Both sessions are being recorded. And Tuesday afternoon is lab time and time that I will make myself available. I will come to Blackboard. Also, if you want to book some time with me on those times, you can. Course message or send me an email. I'll be more than happy to spend some time with the teams, one-on-ones. But what you will find on a typical week and what you are expected to do on a typical week. So let's go back to Blackboard. Let's look at week 1. So again, every week will look the same. The content will change, but the site architecture that I'm using for weekly is the same. Okay, so consistency. I want it to be consistent, and you guys don't have to learn every week. You don't feel that you have to learn something different. So I listed all of the topics. So you will find more details about the topics in the course, the critical path. We may be able to start touching on the critical path today or not. If you don't, please go to the critical path course outline on the left and critical path. This is where you're going to find more about the course outline, which you've probably already seen, or the critical path. You will see everything that we will do. It speaks about activities and the assignments and the due dates as well. But a lot of the critical path information is now available in all of these sections that I created. Okay, so but again, and I think this is even more useful. It's contextual. It's there. It's when you need it. You may never need to look at the critical path because I'm designing the weekly and the content that your critical path is here, is real, it's structured. So week 1 will be information architecture intro. So today, tomorrow, we're going to talk about intro. What is if we need to spend more time next Tuesday as well on information architecture intro, which we will, because remember, our week starts really on Wednesdays and then it finishes on Tuesdays. Then we're going to talk about the hierarchy structures and categorization. Then we're going to talk about card sorting. What is card sorting? We're going to look at week 4, diagramming basics and best practices. How do we actually illustrate our information architecture and some of the best practices around them? We're going to look at navigation system. What is navigation versus information architecture versus search? Search is part of information architecture. Designing an efficient search or filtering also is about information architecture. A directory or Google is, you think of a search directory. This is part of your information architecture. Why is it part of information architecture? Why is search part of information architecture in the first place? Anybody has an idea for why? Think of a user. So we have a user who's trying to look for something. They're browsing, clicking through home, packages, flights, or whether they're going to the search engine and they're going in and they're saying, I want to go to Cancun from December. They're looking for information. They have an information need. So they're choosing the search to actually find the information they're looking for. So yes, so another way. Search is a way for user to find the information, find content. So yes, it's to help people find the item that they are looking for. So it is part of information architecture. When you think of information architecture, it's how do I structure the information? How do I facilitate the experience for a user to actually find the information that they're looking for? Now, sometimes they may not know at all what they're looking for. Sometimes they do. If they don't often know what exactly they're looking for, they're probably going to be more inclined to browse and explore and discover. But if they know exactly that they're looking for this particular phone that has this color and that has this spec, they may actually type it in and expect to find that. So they know what they're looking for. They're very close, and they know. They knowledge about the product, the knowledge about the industry. That we will learn about. That will make that a good UI. IE or not a good IE. So a typical week will have, and then we're going to talk about documenting features, task flow diagramming, and then there'll be the week 7 will be a wrap-up week. So that week is a bit of a buffer week if we need to have a bit of a buffer, but it will be the time where we're actually going to bring everything together. You're going to have time to work on your project, on your big project. So it's probably not going to be much about new content, but it's going to be about finalizing the final project for that week, so that you guys have enough time to work on it as teams. Now, you will see readings. So there are readings that I have suggested that I highly recommend that you guys actually read the reading. I make the readings available before class. So I think at the end of the week, I will make the week available. So this week is available. Next week is not, but this week is available. And I make the reading available for you. I will make the lesson slides available after, but I will make them available after today. So after Wednesdays, you'll have the lessons available, because you may choose to come tomorrow or may not choose to come tomorrow and Tuesday as well. So the deck will be available. And then I have labs. So I'm going to put the lab available for you. So now you have the lab is available. Hold on. So you're going to have access to the labs. Make available. See, it's very user-friendly, right? You heard of user-friendly. Is that part of the information architecture or not part of the information architecture? I would say, I think it is. It's the user has a goal, he wants to reach it. How do you facilitate that? So now you have I will make the lesson slides available for you as well. So you have the slides, the lab, and there's a lab 1 and a lab 2 this week. And then the class recording also becomes available after the session, when the session is closed. So this is the common structure that you will find for every week. Week 1, week 2, week 3. I put the readings at the top because not only they're available, but it's probably the first thing that I like for you to do before class if you can. If you cannot, then find some times during the lab. Find some times or a time on your own to go through the reading. But the more you go through the reading, the better you will be with information architecture. It's really just for you. This is an opportunity for you to dive in information architecture, learn about information architecture. So for this week, this is week 1. We're doing intro to IE, but I want to give you a little bit of intro to maybe what we're going to have next week. So the textbook, chapter textbook. So I put a link called course textbook on the main navigation, and then the course textbook. I call it supplemental, and I think it was supplemental. So if you haven't bought it, you're not going to be penalized if you don't buy it. Okay, I think you're going to learn through that from the sessions and from the assignments and from me. But if you want to buy a book, it's not mandatory, but it's there for you as just another way of learning about information architecture in a different way than just listening to the teacher. But I am using some of the concepts in the book, but you will not be penalized if you don't have the book. Okay. Now, but I have put a lot of readings, information architecture, user context. Very important to know the context of use as well. And the latch method. So there's a method that I say you should learn on your own or discover on your own. So there's a link. I have Jacob Nielsen's. If you know usability and you have Jacob Nielsen's, you will know Jacob Nielsen as a user experience guru and Norman as well. That they're both partners. They have a lot of articles about usability. So you have links. Follow them. Register the email. And Leah just said the textbook is available online through the Humber Library. Awesome. Thank you, Leah. You see, I forgot to put that. So I'm a bad teacher. I'm not expert, not perfect, but thank you, Leah. So the textbook is available. Go ahead. You're just going to learn more. And then a few more articles about information architecture versus navigation and the 10 heuristic evaluation as well. So I'm assuming you've heard about the 10 usability heuristic evaluation. If you have not, then I've put you a reading so that you become familiar with that. But the rule is try to do the readings before classes. It will make a lot of sense. Do the reading before doing the lab. And then I give you, for this week readings, I've even give you some tips on how you should conduct a heuristic evaluation. So yes, awesome. And I knew this. I knew that some of you have done heuristic last semester, heuristic evaluation. If you haven't, please go through the articles. But the heuristic evaluation there are 10 heuristic evaluation from Jacob Nielsen. There are 10 checklists of elements that you should look when you're doing an IE or when you think you're trying to make an opinion about the IE to see if the IE is a good IE. There are 10 things that you should really, really be paying attention to. And then I would encourage you to read the article. These things will help you to guide you. So when you go to a website and you try to make an assessment about the information architecture, you're going to have something more tangible to really pay attention to. An example is called labels, naming, labeling, speaking the user language. So one of the heuristic is around that. Maybe it's not exactly speaking the user language, but it's using a language that the users are familiar. Thank you, Mert. With they're familiar with. So think back to Blackboard. I'm using a language that students should be familiar with. Assessment, course outline, critical path. Maybe critical path is very specific to Humber. But weekly, class material, textbook, how to contact the teacher, messaging, all these things. These are languages that you would think that most students will be familiar with for multiple reasons. So knowing the heuristic will help you to pay attention, to know what to pay attention for good IE design. Very, very important. Now, I give you some tips on how you could conduct a good heuristic evaluation, because what would happen? There are many reasons why you could use heuristic evaluation, and Mert and anybody who's done heuristic will learn. You may want to use heuristic evaluation because someone said challenges with your information architecture. You may want to do an assessment. So you may want to use the heuristic and go through your website and take a user goal, a very specific user. Let's take the students trying to find a course textbook. That could be you have a user, you have a specific goal. Finding textbook on Blackboard, then you would actually do that as a user expert. So me, myself, or Mert would actually go to Blackboard, or as someone else, I think Dana said, how did you go about learning from Blackboard? I did that. I said, I have students going through Blackboard, and then how will they find assessment? How will they find course textbook? Actually, what is important to them? I started by saying, what is important to a student? And then you go to each ones, and then you see, is it easy to find? Is it not easy to find? So I give you some tips on how you could conduct a heuristic evaluation to help you define your IA, if it's a good IA. And if you know what those heuristics are, then it'll be a lot easier to come up with the best IA. That said, it's 10:25, 12:26, so we are past 1 minute, and the class should be done. So we're gonna have to stop. But are there any questions? Any questions for the first 2 hours? Week one, tomorrow we're meeting again. It's optional, but I'll be here and I will keep going. I'm going to continue to go through the deck. So I hope you enjoyed the class. What you see now is what you will see. There's going to be more participation. Now we're setting up the stages intro, but there'll be more work. So please go to Blackboard. We'll see you tomorrow, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon. If you have any question, you can send me a course message. I look forward to the semester. I look forward to knowing more, and I look forward to helping you in your journey. So enjoy your afternoon. Thank you. I love the comments in the chat. You guys are kind. Thank you.